Hey everyone, welcome back to Senior Care Insights.
It's great to be here.
Caring for aging loved ones, especially when we start to think about them maybe being in the final chapter of life,
It
it's
is.
really weighty stuff emotionally.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to take a deep dive into recognizing those signs that an aging person might be in their final year of life.
Okay.
And I want to be really clear. This is not about creating fear or dread,
Right.
but really about equipping ourselves
Yes.
with knowledge and understanding
Absolutely.
so we can provide the best possible care
Yes.
and make the most of the time that we have.
Absolutely.
So one of the first things, and I'm sure you see this all the time,
Yeah.
is that we often notice significant weight loss in aging individuals.
Mhm.
And we tend to just kind of brush it off like, oh, it's just part of aging.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more going on beneath the surface, right?
Oh, for sure. And this is the thing that I find so fascinating is that this weight loss can be seen as communication from the body itself. It's not just about slower metabolism or, maybe decreased appetite. Those things certainly contribute,
Yeah.
but it's sometimes a deeper shift in the body's priorities.
Okay.
Almost as if it's gradually letting go.
So it's not just a matter of, just eat more.
Right. And while we always want to make sure our loved ones are nourished,
Yeah.
sometimes the focus needs to shift from encouraging eating to ensuring comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Like really prioritizing hydration
Yeah.
and maybe offering small amounts of their favorite foods simply for enjoyment of taste.
Yeah, just that little spark.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes me think about another thing that we see so often is this
Yeah.
extreme fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than just, oh, I'm tired, I need a nap.
Right.
This is like a profound...
It's deep.
need
It's a
to
deep,
nap.
all-consuming exhaustion.
Yeah.
Imagine if even the simplest tasks felt like running a marathon.
Oh, wow.
That's the level of fatigue that we're discussing here.
And so their body is actually prioritizing its energy.
Yeah. Yes, it's strategically conserving energy
Yeah.
and directing it towards essential organ function.
So it's not that they're just being lazy or choosing to withdraw.
Right. They're not.
It's that they just...
Their body is literally incapable
Yeah.
of keeping up the same pace.
And that must be so frustrating.
Absolutely. Think about it. Someone who's maybe led a very active life and now they're struggling to do even the simplest things.
Mm-hmm.
It can lead to withdrawal. It can lead to isolation and a sense of losing their independence.
And that's where our role as caregivers, our patience and compassion comes in.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the kindest thing we can do is just create a space where they feel safe and comfortable to rest, to just be,
Yeah.
and accepting that stillness has become a larger part of their life.
Exactly. Shifting our focus from keeping them busy to creating moments of peace
Mm-hmm.
can be a profound act of love and support.
Which brings us to, I think, another sign that can be really heartbreaking to witness.
Mm.
And that is those cognitive changes,
Mm-hmm.
the confusion, the withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if like a fog descends upon their mind, making it difficult to navigate even familiar territory.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to watch for both the individual experiencing it and their loved ones.
Hmm.
It's not just about forgetting names or misplacing keys,
Right.
This is a gradual unraveling of their cognitive abilities,
Got it.
impacting memory, impacting comprehension, even their ability to engage with the world around them.
And I imagine that leads to further withdrawal.
Yes,
Mhm.
precisely. They may become quieter, less interactive, not because they don't care,
Mm-hmm.
but because keeping up with conversations
Yeah.
and social interactions becomes too overwhelming.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to hold a conversation while lost in a maze.
Wow. Yeah.
That's the kind of mental exhaustion they might be experiencing.
And so our natural inclination might be like, oh, well, let's try to engage them more. Let's
Right.
bring them out.
Right.
But that's not always the most helpful approach.
Yeah, you're right. While connecting with loved ones is always important, forcing interaction during periods of cognitive confusion
Yeah.
can actually heighten their anxiety.
Okay.
Instead, focus on offering comfort through your presence.
Mm-hmm.
A gentle touch, a familiar song,
Yeah.
simply sitting quietly beside them.
Yeah.
These gestures can provide a sense of reassurance and peace
Mhm.
without demanding mental energy.
It's really about meeting them where they are,
Exactly.
emotionally and mentally,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that even in silence,
Yes,
love and connection can still be felt.
precisely. Sometimes the most profound form of communication transcends words.
Now, that leads us to another challenging sign that I think a lot of families struggle with,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the frequent infections
Yeah.
and that frustratingly slow healing
Yeah.
that seems to just go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's like even the smallest scrape takes forever to heal.
This is where we see the impact of a weakening immune system and
Right.
compromised circulation. What might have been a quickly resolved issue earlier in life can now linger
Yeah.
and create a lot of discomfort and worry.
And sometimes I think it's hard because those infections don't present in the typical way.
Absolutely.
Like they might not have a fever.
Right. They might not.
They might not have.
The same outward signs as someone younger.
Yeah, so it's really about being extra vigilant
Yeah.
and paying attention to any subtle shifts in their baseline.
Exactly. They might just seem a bit more confused or sleep longer or lose their appetite.
Yeah.
Subtle changes that could easily be missed if we're not paying close attention.
And this is where I think, some of those challenging conversations about medical interventions might need to happen. Because at what point does aggressive treatment become more burdensome than beneficial?
That's a conversation that needs to happen with medical professionals and the individual themselves, if possible.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that in this stage of life, the focus often shifts from curing to comforting.
So rather than always rushing to the doctor for antibiotics
Right.
or pushing for invasive procedures, we might need to consider whether those interventions truly align with their overall well-being.
Exactly. It's a sensitive balance.
Yeah.
And one that requires open communication, compassion, and a willingness to prioritize quality of life over simply extending it.
I think this is a good place to pause
Okay.
because we've covered a lot.
We have.
And I think, when we come back in part 2, we'll talk about those major changes in breathing and circulation.
Yes.
And we'll dive even deeper into the emotional and practical aspects of providing care during this delicate stage of life.
I look forward to it.
Excellent. Me too.
So as we continue kind of exploring these subtle signs, I think we also need to acknowledge the emotional roller coaster that accompanies this stage of life,
Yeah.
not just for the aging individual, but for their loved ones too.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about a lot of the physical changes, but what about that emotional and psychological impact? How do we even begin to navigate that territory?
Well, it starts with recognizing that everyone processes things differently.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to these conversations. Some individuals might welcome the opportunity to talk very openly about their fears and their wishes. Others might completely shy away from the topic.
So sensitivity and respect for their individual needs are paramount.
Absolutely.
But how do we even broach the subject?
Yeah.
I mean, death is such a taboo topic in our society.
It is.
It can be hard to know where to begin.
Sometimes a direct approach isn't necessary, especially if they seem resistant.
Okay.
Instead try to create an opening for conversation by simply acknowledging their current state.
Okay.
You could say something like, I've noticed you've been more tired than usual. Is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Yeah.
Or, I'm here for you no matter what you're going through.
Yeah. Just that open-ended,
Exactly.
just that caring presence.
But what about for us as caregivers?
I mean, this is heavy stuff.
It is.
And it can be so emotionally draining.
It's so important to remember you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't hesitate to reach out for support, whether it's from other family members or friends or support groups or even professional caregivers.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself enables you to better care for your loved one.
Right. It's like they say on the airplane, put on your oxygen mask first before assisting others.
Exactly.
So beyond the emotional challenges, though, there are also the practical aspects of caregiving.
Yeah.
How do we create an environment that really supports their physical needs and comfort?
Well, remembering what we talked about, with decreased energy levels, it's about prioritizing rest and creating a space that feels peaceful and calming.
Okay.
Think about, soft lighting, soothing music, maybe even incorporating some aromatherapy scents that they enjoy.
Yeah, creating that little sanctuary.
Exactly.
But what about tasks that become physically challenging? Things like bathing or dressing. How do we balance, their need for assistance with their desire for independence?
Well, this is where patience and a gentle approach are really essential.
Okay.
Adaptive equipment can be so helpful. Things like shower chairs or grab bars can really make daily tasks easier and safer. And remember, asking for help from a professional caregiver doesn't mean you're failing.
Right.
It simply means that you're ensuring your loved one is getting the best possible care.
We also can't forget about nutrition.
Right.
I mean, those needs change so much during this time.
Exactly. Their appetite might decrease. They might have difficulty swallowing. So offering, smaller, more frequent meals, Focusing on easily digestible foods becomes important.
And hydration is key.
Hydration is crucial.
That seems to be a theme
Yes.
throughout all of this.
Absolutely.
And what about pain management?
Yeah.
I mean, that must become a more prominent concern as their body weakens.
It can be, the important thing here is to be observant and communicate openly with their medical team about any discomfort that they're experiencing.
Okay.
There are various medications and therapies available that can really help manage pain and improve your quality of life.
It's a good reminder that, we can't stop this progression.
Right.
But we can make it as comfortable as possible.
We can.
What about addressing their emotional and spiritual needs?
That's a beautiful question, and I think it's often overlooked.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that even as their physical body weakens their inner world, their emotions, their spirit that remains vibrant.
So how do we approach that? What does it look like to provide that emotional and spiritual care during this final chapter?
Well, first and foremost, it's about creating a space where they feel safe to express their feelings, whatever those might be.
Okay.
Fear, sadness, regret, acceptance, even joy.
So putting aside our own discomfort
Yes.
with those difficult emotions.
Absolutely.
And just being present with them in their experience.
And if they have spiritual or religious beliefs that bring them comfort, find ways to support that connection.
Okay.
Whether it's through, reading scripture or playing spiritual music or facilitating visits from clergy or members of their faith community.
And for those who maybe aren't religious but find solace in nature or music or other forms of creative expression, we can create opportunities for them to connect with those things.
Absolutely.
That bring meaning.
It's about recognizing their individuality and honoring the things that have always nourished their soul.
Man, this conversation is bringing up a lot for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it is for our listeners, too. It's heavy stuff.
It is.
And it's okay to feel the weight of it.
Absolutely. These are profound topics. And it's natural to feel a range of emotions. Don't be afraid to take a break, step away, process everything that we're discussing.
Yeah.
Self-care is so essential when you're navigating such emotionally charged terrain.
Well said.
Uh-huh.
I think we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to wrap up our deep dive
Okay.
by really exploring how we can find meaning and make the most of that precious time that we have left.
I look forward to it.
Welcome back to Senior Care Insights. As we kind of come to the final part of our deep dive today,
Yeah.
I want to shift our focus a little bit to something that's been on my mind throughout this whole conversation.
Okay.
We've talked about recognizing the signs, providing care, navigating the difficult emotions. But what about finding meaning and making the most of the time that we have left?
That's such a beautiful question, and I think it's something that's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day tasks of caregiving.
Yeah.
That we forget about the human connection at the heart of it all. Even as their physical body weakens, there's still so much life to be lived. There's so much love to be shared.
So how do we make that shift from just providing care to really cherishing the moments?
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
It is. But I think it starts with recognizing the power of simply being present.
Okay.
Putting aside our to-do lists, silencing our phones, and offering our undivided attention. It's about truly seeing them, hearing them, and letting them know that they matter deeply.
I love the idea of just being present.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds so simple,
It does.
but in our busy lives, it's so hard to actually do.
It is. It's a conscious choice we have to make.
Yeah.
A conscious effort to slow down and savor the moments, even the quiet ones. Because sometimes the most profound connections happen in the stillness, in the shared glances, in the gentle touch of a hand.
So it's not about planning these big, elaborate outings or grand gestures.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It's about finding those little meaningful moments in the everyday.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as reading aloud from their favorite book or looking through old photos together, or even just sitting quietly by their side, sharing the warmth of your presence. It's about creating a space where they feel safe, loved, and cherished for exactly who they are in that moment.
And I imagine that shift in focus from doing to just being can also bring a sense of peace and acceptance to us as caregivers as well.
Absolutely. When we release the pressure to fix or to control, when we surrender to the natural flow of life, we open ourselves up to a deeper level of connection and appreciation.
So it's not about denying the reality of their declining health.
Right.
But it's about finding ways to celebrate the life that remains.
Beautifully said. It's about recognizing that even in the face of loss, there's still so much beauty to be found, so much love to be given and received.
Now, what about addressing their spiritual needs
Yeah.
during this time? For some people who have very strong religious beliefs, it might seem kind of straightforward.
Right.
But what about for those who maybe aren't religious but are still grappling with those big existential questions?
I think, again, it comes back to listening, offering a safe space for them to express their fears, their doubts, their hopes without judgment.
It might be reading poetry that resonates with their worldview,
Yeah.
listening to music that evokes a sense of awe and wonder, or simply sitting in nature and reflecting on the interconnectedness of life.
So honoring their individual journey.
Yes.
And recognizing that there's no right or wrong way to find meaning and peace at the end of life.
Exactly. And for those who find comfort in their religious faith, we can support them by facilitating connections with their faith community. Reading from sacred texts or simply offering prayers of comfort and support.
So really creating a tapestry of care that encompasses all of their needs.
Beautifully put. It's recognizing that even as their physical body weakens, their spirit remains strong. And we can find ways to nurture that spirit through our presence, our love, and our acceptance.
Wow, this has been such a profound conversation. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have as well.
Me too.
It's not easy to talk about death and dying.
It's not.
But it's such an important conversation to have. I agree. And I hope that by shining a light on these subtle signs and exploring the many facets of end-of-life care, we've empowered our listeners to approach this journey with more knowledge, compassion, and a sense of peace.
I think so, too. Thank you so much for joining us today on Senior Care Insights.
It was my pleasure.
We encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if this conversation has resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who might benefit from it.
Yes, please do.
Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.